Good afternoon and happy 316 day. And I know you're probably looking at your watches or clocks and saying, wait a minute, it's the 15th. Well, tomorrow's the 16th, and our chance of having a chance to chat with you probably would diminish dramatically. But following Pi Day last night was a big hit in our family. We thought this was the perfect opportunity to touch on 316 and really broadly the fiduciary outcomes for plan sponsors and how important this is as an industry to get this right, and celebrate probably the one thing that was in ERISA originally that's been broadly overlooked, which is the 316 responsibilities from an administrative standpoint. Hi, my name is Matt Mincer. I'm the Executive Vice President here at PENTalk. We are an 80-year fiduciary. We were actually built by the Federal Home Loan Banks in 1943 to be a fiduciary for them, and still are today. So we're really excited about anything fiduciary and everything fiduciary, and that's again really what we're going to talk about. One just operational thing here. This will go about 45 minutes. We've got about 30 minutes with our panel, and then 15 minutes for questions. If you have a question, put it in the question box, and we'll make sure that we get to it. If we do run out of time, we'll get back to you directly. But with that, let me welcome our panelists for today. My colleague Brian Lynch, who is the Regional Director in the Mid-Atlantic. Sean Cannon, who is Vice President of External Channel Sales and a great sales strategist, 12 years with ADP. And a dear friend of mine, Barbara Delaney, renowned expert in the retirement space and broadly the benefits of plan sponsors. She's not only seen it all, she's done it all and still doing it, and more to come, especially we won't be able to get in today, but as it relates to healthcare. So thank you all for joining. Let's have a lot of fun with this. And if we could flip to the next slide. Behavioral scientists will tell us that the need behind the need, the things that actually drive outcomes for decision makers really revolve around three specific elements: the time it takes for them to do something, the value to it, the money that it costs, so time, money, and then the self-interest. Is this going to work? Is this something I need? Is this something that will benefit people? I mean, decisions, or behavioralists will tell us, are built around that. And Barb, having seen this and done this, and we're going to talk about the USTA as a kind of an interesting outcome for you. How are you dealing with this? This isn't new, 316 or 338. Your clients are very busy, but seem to be also unaware of all the things that are involved. How do you have this conversation, and how did it come up with the USTA?
Thank you, Matt, and nice to be here with everybody. The USTA, as you know, is the National Tennis Association, that primary operations out of New York and Florida, who run the actual UST, the Open, each year. Underneath them, and we've managed the USTA's relationship for over 10 years at this point. Underneath them is a little unique, and they have 17 or now 18 different sections throughout the country that was created to have the sole goal of the sections is to promote the game of tennis. Over the years, they've been kept separately for multiple reasons, but until about 2 years ago, we began to question, why are they running 18 different 401k plans instead of trying to streamline the plans and get them uniform? It's 17 plans that are doing different things under the USTA name. Was beginning a little concerning. So that's how we began this conversation with ADP, because ADP happens to provide the payroll services for the majority of the sections. So it's a natural fit to say, okay, if we need to streamline things, particularly with small organizations, the average section is probably about 50 people. They don't have the staff to administer a 401k plan. They don't have the staff, they don't have the knowledge, and nor do they really want it. So it was really a natural way of chain of events that happened with, we're integrating payroll. Why not now take the payroll integration step further? And we became the 338 on it. And furthermore, with Contegra, they now serve as the 316. So the sections actually have more fiduciary protection than ever before with the 338 and the 316. And as far as money and behavior, although the sections are smaller plans, I honestly see the need for 316 on the larger plans. More and more of our clients are actually asking how much risk can they take off their table. And one step is obviously the 338, which is becoming more on larger plans than I've ever seen before. But for the smaller plans, particularly ADP Integra Solution, a one-stop shop really gives them the layers of protection all the way up to their boards. And that was the driving goal, and very successful with the sections we've done so far. So we see the same thing throughout plans, whether it's small or giant plans. They all suffer with lack of time and ability to do things correctly.
Thanks, Barb. And we, as part of this, we want to kind of make it interactive with the audience. So we have some polling questions around time, money, and self-interest. And if Lizzie, if you could put the first question up there for us, how do your clients deal with this? If you could answer one of these questions on the in front of you, and then we'll get back to it. But Brian, Barb just brought up a really important point about the kind of the need more broadly, whether you're small and you just don't have the time and you're really busy and the staff, but even large plans that do have maybe the time and the money and the staff, but recognize there's other things. What are your advisors telling you as you go through the different market segments and maybe lean in towards the larger plans that you're seeing?
Yep. Thanks, Matt. And thanks, everyone, for joining. Appreciate your time this afternoon. It's a great question. So I've been doing this for quite a while. And several years ago, I think there was a lot of skepticism about 316 administrative fiduciary and a lot of misunderstanding about exactly what it is. Some things I heard, it's really just a marketing term. So it took a lot of education and, a lot of issues that we see plans fall into as far as administrative errors. And just like we've seen the trend for participants over the last almost 20 years of doing it for them because they were not investment experts, they really didn't understand how to do everything. And with the auto features, we've allowed participants to have it done for them by the experts. And just like that, a lot of plan sponsors are seeing the value. Barb referenced it, right? The mission of the organization was focus on tennis. Well, many of the plans I work with have that same thing. In fact, I had someone that literally threw their hands up and said, I know nothing about this. I want to focus on my business. So this is a way, by providing a true administrative fiduciary, we can do it for them as the plan sponsor and take it off their plate, remove their name from the legal plan document as well as the Form 5500, and truly do it for them.
Thanks, Brian. And we have the results up there, and the audience seems to echo it. They could use help managing the details. And can someone actually do that? The unawareness that the professionals may be able to do that. And they don't really spend that much time, which is, kind of a bad answer to the fiduciary quiz. If the auditors or anybody else come in the room and say, how do you make these decisions? What are you doing? Saying, I don't really know or care is probably not a good fiduciary answer. So why don't we go to our next question? How do your clients' benefits come together? Retirement, welfare, insurance, all of the pieces that Barb was alluding to. When you think about it, and we were talking earlier before the call began, ERISA coming out in the 70s was, pretty groundbreaking. 316 shows inside of ERISA, the original ERISA code, and more recently, it's been extended as it relates to health and welfare plans, which we won't have time to get into today, but it just shows you how the fiduciary outcome continues to be a big deal. And while people are responding, Sean, a question for you. It really isn't easy to pull all these pieces together, but ADP has found a way to do this. What's your thoughts on total benefits outsourcing from an organizational standpoint?
Thanks, Matt, and everyone for joining. We've talked about this now for a few months. Is it, whether it's secure, ADP's data has seemed to be the kind of linchpin. And then when you tie in our 316 solution with Pentegra, being able to tie in, not just the retirement plan, but, some of these additional health benefits, where whether a client or a participant can potentially see, things, from their 401k plan to their health insurance. Being able to see everything in one spot has been huge, and it's definitely a new avenue that we're seeing opportunity in for next year.
Yeah, and not to just be a blatant plug for ADP, but it's hard not to. I mean, as America's largest payroll provider, the data that you have and the security you have to put around that data is, kind of second to none. Pulling all those pieces together goes back to solving what for Barb said and Brian alluded to, and we just want to worry about our business. We don't want to worry about all this stuff. We want to let the professionals do it. It's kind of equal split here in the answers. Is it even possible to do this? Yeah. Who knew, right? It's actually possible to do it. It's just we've been so focused on getting the right outcome for the 401k plan, we forget that it's the whole outcome that matters to the plan sponsor, and benefits continue to grow in importance in getting that right. And they need someone to help. There's no formal plan for managing this. Absolutely the case. It goes right back to want it done, self-interest, but time. I'm not an expert at this. I'm an expert at tennis in the form of the USTA, or fill in the blank for any of your clients. I think this is a fairly homogeneous problem, and we believe solution as it relates to a great fiduciary outcome for plan sponsors. Why don't we go to our next question?
Yeah, while we go on to the next question, just to chime in, having ADP and Pentegra fully integrated, ADP is the best source of data, and anyone who works with 401ks as much as we do, where do the problems lie? It lies in the payroll, and 90% of the problems stem from some form of payroll information not done correctly. So ADP is in a very unique position not only to seamlessly manage the payroll side, but the integration of the 401k, which has really been seamless and easy for the plan sponsor just to say, yeah, that makes sense. Let me just do it this way. And very easily can put together a program that not only does the 401k, but, to your point on insurance and benefits, small plan sponsors really want this all together. I see on the larger plans there's some pushback on the benefits and insurance, but small plans, you ask them, do they even have a bond? I would say they don't even know they need one. Fiduciary insurance is another thing. So that's some of the ways we see this coming together in the future. Sorry to just chime in there, Matt.
No, thank you, Barb. As long as we've been doing this, it always has come back to getting it right, and the census file was the key to the outcome of the plan, and how hard that's been historically. And now it's institutional grade, no matter plan size. And last time I checked, Sean, you guys are pretty good with mega plans in the United States too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we work, from the smallest to the largest, and leverage 316 for everything, from the mom and pop startups to mega size plans.
So let's go to our next question. How do your clients deal with all this? And while that's up there, Brian, back to another kind of what you're hearing more broadly from advisors. Again, they think that this is only something, maybe the kind of solution that they've seen us do in 316 is only for smaller plans, but you're finding, and I hate to lead you here, but it seems like that's not what you're hearing in the field from your advisors and the sponsors they're putting you in front of. Maybe you could share some thoughts on that.
Absolutely. That I think is definitely a cliche you hear, is that, well, these smaller businesses, organizations don't have the resources to handle this, and the larger ones do. And, over the last few decades, for sure, last several years, definitely, there's a focus on cost on all levels. And, whether you're a large organization or small organization, and I've been a part of both, people are concerned about cost. It's one of the few controllables that organizations have. And regardless of the size, what I have found in my experience in working with the consultants is very few people consider themselves ERISA prudent experts that are named as a plan sponsor. That's a big deal. We don't want to go into that now, but it's a big deal to be an ERISA fiduciary. And when you're held to that standard, literally no higher standard in the law, it can be very overwhelming. And plans of all sizes, and we're starting to see more and more of those institutional larger plans realize you want to focus on other things. There's things that this organization wants to accomplish, and being a prudent ERISA expert is not in the top 50 of those priorities. So by hiring folks that are that prudent ERISA expert, it really takes it off their plate and makes sure that their plan is running the way it's supposed to, and they're seeing that value regardless of their size.
So while we're waiting for the results to come up, there was something in there that you said, and now it's escaped me. So, but I'll come back to it. It was about size, but it was also about the need of focusing on their business and how uniform we're seeing that across all market segments. It isn't just the small companies that are looking for this. It's the larger companies that, as they become aware of their fiduciary rule or their fiduciary role and the rules behind it, they're looking for that outsourcing. So from a response, third, how willing will your clients be to pay for services? They don't know what they don't know, so nothing. That's a third. They're a small business, so all expenses matter. Third, they become aware and value has meaning. So third, I think that's a fair way of broadly thinking about value. That old saying, in the absence of value, price has meaning. That when they really realize, and maybe you can flip to the next, good lead into the next slide, when they really realize the value of the ensemble of this, it becomes a lot clearer that the price is not really the only arbiter of the outcome. So if you could flip to the next slide, please. This is a picture, kind of a hub and spoke of, Barb, what you've developed for the USTA. And while this is specific to them, and specifically, as we talked earlier, the actual 338 that you constructed for the USTA, the satellites that surround the hub of the client outcome are consistent in the sense that payroll, 401k, the employee benefits portal, and how you can get to the insurance that runs the company. Our role is a 316, and that's, we are the named fiduciary as a 316 in this program. And then the income solution that you brought with Kelly Hewler. How did this all formulate for you, Barb, when you were thinking about that comment that the section made about we want to focus on tenants, not benefits? How did you draw this all up?
Well, what really drove it is the amount of sections that did utilize currently ADP as the payroll provider, and knowing what ADP can provide in the small mid-market, it really became almost a no-brainer instead of going to the national plan. That's not what they wanted. They wanted uniform plans, but it was really refreshing for me working with ADP and Pentegra, because your ADP is not a asset manager. We were able much better way to develop solutions that are not dependent upon what the record keeper will tell us. So, for example, the fiduciary oversight as far as the fund selection. ADP is 100% agnostic to that, which really led us to a really good portfolio. We were working within a constraint of being similar to what national offers. So we had that. But when Matt mentioned income solutions, the Euler guaranteed income for life option has been available to the mega market for 20 years and really has started to take hold. What we've been not able to get income solutions on the major record keeping platforms is because the major record keepers really are still insisting we use proprietary solutions, which doesn't really fly in the larger market. So the ability to plug in income solutions to the USTA and having the 338 and 316, I think the sections are honestly in better shape than national as far as protection. And we are working with national to become the 338 and using income solutions, because one of the things that we consistently find is participants want a guarantee once they become eligible. And the payroll integration is key. I've gotten employee benefits meetings with the participants, just listening to them, loving the app, because the app not only has their 401k balance, but they actually can see that payroll information on the app. Sounds silly, but it's a really important piece. So, and being part of Hub, it's not, yes, we can do benefits for them, but we're also finding we can provide them fiduciary insurance if they want, because they all have boards and they want insurance for their boards, and easily a bond, which many of them don't even realize that they needed to have. So it was really an evolution of, hey, let's do this and make it really work. So we think the sections will all adopt this as they can, and it's a very uniform approach. And to be honest, we think we're going to find administrative issues with every single small plan. I don't think there's one plan in the country that we could actually go to and say, oh, there's not some kind of administrative blip. That ultimately goes back to the responsibility of the plan sponsor. And using a 316, the 5500 fund, there's many things that are done that small plans just simply aren't in the business of doing. So it made it an easy transition and a very soundproof, if you will, solution for a small company. It doesn't only apply to the sections here, but any small business that is looking for an integrated solution. It's refreshing not to have an asset manager requirement or a record. So I can't say enough about that. It's very refreshing to do that.
A couple of thoughts, a lot that you said there. On the income side, what I love what Kelly has developed is really an institutional grade solution that brings that type of product to a marketplace that never had access to it, because as you said, it was only for the Xeroxes and the IBMs of the world. Now, that institutional grade solution, which usually comes therefore at a better rack rate to the client, is available, which is an incredible statement. And I think to your comment around the insurance company owned record keepers, that they got to be staring at this same outcome themselves. They have access to all these participants. Historically, annuities have been sold kind of hand to hand over the kitchen table. To be able to develop that massive scale distribution through the retirement plan connection should provide that same kind of cost benefit for the participants that Kelly's been able to deliver at Income Solutions, and you've brought to the USTA. To me, this picture just screams all that we've been talking about for so many decades about the outcome that is needed by plan sponsors. And of course, a little foreshadowing of, another bubble or spoke for healthcare is not far behind. It's already been approved or been adopted into ERISA. It's just now for us as an industry to get our collective heads together on how to scale that as well. And that we'll leave that for a future webcast. But Brian, Barb also mentioned, how many plans that we see out there that even before we can do work, they just need to be cleaned up. And I know that you use that kind of as an eye opener. Maybe you could explain that for the audience as to how cleaning plans up is not only a really important thing, but something we love to execute.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does amaze me. And as I referenced earlier, no higher standard than being a fiduciary and being an expert, prudent fiduciary. So we have a team that is dedicated to helping plans that run into issues for a variety of reasons. I would say the number one issue we see is the failure to file their 5500 in a timely way. And as many of you on the line know, these can lead to some significant fines and penalties and issues for the plan. I had one that I personally worked with. They called because they had the nasty IRS letter that had a $190,000 fine because of their failure to file the Form 5500. Needless to say, they were, quite stressed about that. And our team was able to gather the info we needed, pull all the data, complete the 5500, and help walk them through the voluntary correction program and walk them through filing that. Once it was filed, we were actually able to have the IRS waive that penalty. So instead of the 190,000, it was a couple of thousand to have us do that work and pay the government to file late. And we see a variety of issues. That's one of the top ones, but I've come across issues with testing where plans didn't realize they were part of a control group, and the implications that has when you talk about cross-testing and combined testing. And we can help them fix that. I sort of refer to this group as the B to Z solution. And what do I mean by that? Well, A is you got to get us the information. And once we have the proper understanding of that issue, once we have the proper data we need to work on it, we'll fix it from B to Z. And we'll take care of everything. And then when it comes time to the correction with the regulators and the government, we walk you through exactly how to do that. And this group has helped, I believe, hundreds of plans at minimum now fix errors that, when they first reach out to someone, they're stressed, they have no idea what it means. And of course, with some of those fines could lead to a ruin of them financially. And we hold their hand and walk through it and correct everything and assure going forward that, now with the 316 service, you're not going to run into these types of issues ever again.
Always nice to be able to solve a client's problem. You have a client for life on the other end. So we look for those problems to solve. It's a great way to prove our worth, and obviously it makes the plan sponsor's life and the advisor's life and the record keeper's life a lot easier when these plans are running in good order. So thank you for that. Sean, you're looking at this diagram, and we've been looking at this for months now and putting it together. And there's a kind of like the old saying, often the obvious goes overlooked. Here you guys are America's largest payroll provider, one of the largest deliverers of 401k service, and have been delivering employee benefits through your portal. We're a client here at PENTegra, and I'll tell you, it's a very convenient app when from checking benefits to putting in our vacation days. As you see this going forward, how do you see this developing within the ADP organization, and how that can relate to the clients that you serve and we collectively serve?
I think the way I see it, and it's come up over the last, call it, few years with Secure 2.0 specifically, and kind of some of the new provisions that are going live. Like we get asked more and more about how that data impacts, other provisions of Secure. But like you said, this is kind of right under our nose. We've had access to it for years, and some of this information has always just generally been separated and in their own silos. So leveraging PENTegra, Barbara, and everybody kind of coming together and saying, well, what if we put this together? And being able to do that, I think, is kind of our next leg up for not just the smaller plans with the without an HR type team, but frankly for larger plans that have those HR resources but are looking to kind of have those HR teams do more business associated things than tasks like managing benefits and providing information to employees that would just rather have it at their fingertips.
Yeah, and I can speak for a comment, Barb, that you made, that this experience for you with ADP is kind of really opened your eyes, that it's not maybe the ADP people knew 20 years ago. it's so well integrated across these really important data streams.
It is, and it makes it. I was so surprised and pleasantly surprised how quickly we can get through a conversion on a small plan. Everything's just simplified, easy. When you hit the mid-size and larger plans, conversions are a huge deal. I'm happy to say this plan was converted within a 60-day time period, which is unheard of in my world, and brought out a blackout within 2 days. So the process really works very well. I'm pleasantly surprised. So thank you.
Yeah. And exciting for all of us, and what should be expected, right? So I see we're at the half hour. If we can flip to the last slide, I'll just do a quick brought to you by message, and then open it up for any questions that the audience has. First, again, thank you for joining us today. Even though it's 3:15, we're celebrating 316 Day, a day early. And, you know, it's hard not to be excited about where we see our role in the industry as a fiduciary partner. We're really excited that 316 is becoming more household. I would just caveat that by saying, unlike investments where there's a 321 where they don't take full discretionary authority, and hence why a 338 is more valuable to the plan sponsor, there is not a 314 in the administrative world. You either are or you're not. And we're proud of being a named 316 administrator with all the institutional support that you would expect from a bank-owned organization. So as an independent fiduciary, again, built 80 years ago to be a fiduciary, we're excited about our ability to work with the Barbara Delaney's of the world, the ADPs of the world, to be able to be part of a solution that makes it easier for the plan sponsor when they're busy with tennis and not their benefits, to save them time, to provide them a valuable service at a good, fair price, and to ease their mind as it relates to all these details that they really rather not worry about and know that they can count on their professionals. So I want to thank our panelists and everyone for joining, and I'd like to open up the line for questions. I have some that have been forwarded along to me. So what I'll do is I have a couple here. And one we've already covered, does 316 make sense for larger mega plans who have lots of resources? Barb, maybe you could touch on that again, because I think that is, I hear that one often, like, oh, this 316 thing is only for smaller plans.
Ironically, just 2 weeks ago, I spoke with a large client, and they were called by many, and one of the callers suggested that they use a 316. And to my surprise, they said, you know what, we want that. We don't want to do this administration anymore. They're a union plan, so they are absolutely sorry. There's my Bella chiming in to talk about it. But we're seeing it come up market for sure.
Yeah, and we find that often the ERISA counsel at a larger firm tends to be our best friend, because when they read through the service agreement, they listen to the presentation, and they, when we say, look, you are still responsible for your data. We can't make that stuff up. You are responsible for timely investments, which has kind of been taken care of in the modern world. And you do still have the responsibility to monitor everything, but know that you're outsourcing to a professional fiduciary firm. We get a lot of head nods from the ERISA counsel, which you don't find in the smaller markets, but we do find in the large market. And you kind of alluded to the other question that came through, which was, does it lead to better plan outcomes? And I think we spent a lot of time on that on the call today, so I think that's been addressed. Sean, one question that I think would be good for you to respond to is, how does having a 316 reduce workloads for a plan sponsor?
I mean, Matt, I think you know my passion around 316 generally. ADP prides itself on our data and data flowing correctly and our data security. But whether it's a small client or a large client, you can't predict kind of where that risk is. And, this came up a couple times earlier, but almost, no one that we work with is a fiduciary expert, right? Whether they're a, tenured HR professional or a small business owner, they just don't truly have the knowledge of this and the changing rules. So, whether it's simply filing the 5500 or the audit support that the client would get, I personally see value in the 316 solution, whether it's again, very small mom and pop shop all the way up to a mega client.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sean. And hard not to repeat, kind of a little different way that Brian said. It's one thing to have a signature ready 5500. It's a whole nother thing to have a signed and filed 5500. And I think a lot of people forget that, especially smaller employers that are just so busy. I always go back to my brother who runs a body shop and my college roommate who runs a small law firm, and they're like, I'm so busy. I don't know. They say it's there, but I don't even really know how to do it. So to have that burden taken away, a little thing that is actually a big thing, it provides a lot of value. If there's no other questions, which I don't think there are that have come through the line, you can click on this QR code and get some more information about us and about the outcomes that we talked about today, or you see the 800 or 885 number on the screen, or you can reach us by solutions@pentegra.com, and we'd be more than happy to obviously chat through anything you heard or didn't hear, any questions that you have, or any directions that we can offer some feedback on. So with that, we'll give everyone back a couple of 5 minutes to their day. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your Friday to join us today. Again, want to thank my colleague Brian Lynch, Sean Cannon from ADP, and Barbara. Thank you. I really appreciate taking the time. I know how busy you are, and thank you for the decades of our relationship. It means so much.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Happy Friday.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.